This is Needy and Normal. Welcome. I'm your host, Ashley Levering, mom, wife, and life coach. After years of coaching and learning from my own life, one thing is clear. Meeting your needs is essential for living your best life. Here, we'll talk about your needs and not only learn to accept them, but also tend to them without guilt. Let's get needy because it's normal. Doing something different today. I'm excited to bring back episode number 6, which is timely because this episode came out around the same exact time that I am delivering it back to you this year, where I am about to take the kids to Phoenix, Arizona to reunite with Dad, my husband, Jeff, and I wanted to reshare this episode about keeping things simple, something I crave, and maybe you need it too. Enjoy. Today we're going to keep things simple. Human beings are fantastic at making simple things complicated. I myself have been known to do that. I've learned a lot, still learning, but it's true. We will go days, weeks, months, years without taking care of certain needs that arise. And it could be something like, I need a new pair of sneakers, or I need to fix that thing on my house, or I need to call that friend. I need to reach out to my boss to have that hard conversation. The needs could be anything. And the path to meeting that need is usually what we muck up, right? It's usually the part that feels hard, or it feels like it's just too far away, or we find a way to minimize it. And we find a way to make it go away, or at least sit so far back in our heads that even though it originated as an important need, we minimize it into being not important. And it could just be a simple plan. It could be as simple as picking up the phone. It could be as simple as putting time on your calendar. We could make it more simple. When I think about making needs simple, I think about the actual need itself not being complicated or not being overly messy. Okay, so I'll explain through a story, and this story is so dramatic, so stay with me. And before you question it, it is real. It is true, a true story. When I was living in Springfield, Missouri, and this was during the summer when my husband had already moved to Massachusetts for his next baseball job, and I had stayed behind. If you remember from episode 1, I talked about our long distance marriage. So for like 7 months of our marriage, our first year, we were apart. So I was still in Springfield, Missouri. He's over in Massachusetts. This is the middle of tornado season. Who loves weather? I love weather. Do you like a good thunderstorm? Not going to lie, I'm fascinated with weather. If it's raining, I'm all about it. If it's thunder and lightning, I'm more all about it. If there is a tornado nearby, granted, I want to be safe, but I'm fascinated and I want to know all the things. Anyway, so I'm with my dear friend and her husband at a concert, an outdoor concert, and we're having the best time. And all of a sudden, it gets windy, starts to rain a little bit, and you hear this announcement on the loudspeaker, sending everyone to their cars. The concert is ending. There's weather in the area, please. And we had to take a bus to get to the parking lot, to get to our car. So everyone is being as calmly as possible told, go to your cars, go home. We're canceling the concert. There's weather in the area. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, weather. But like to shut a whole concert down had to have been a big deal. So we get in the car and we turn on the radio and we catch up. Like, we've been at a concert. We've been having the time of our lives. We're not paying attention to the weather except when we felt it and got the announcement. So we learned that there is a tornado in the area. Several tornadoes, I think, if I remember correctly. It's one of those things you think is real, but not. It's, that's not going to hit us. We'll be fine. Everything's fine. But as we're listening to the radio, they're talking about where this weather pattern, where these tornadoes are headed, and it's right for my area. Jeff and I lived kind of on the north side of town, like almost on the outskirts, almost farmland. So we were way out there. And so my dog at the time, her name was Katie, she's at our apartment, and I'm starting to get a little panicky thinking, oh my gosh, like I got to get the dog. I got to get the dog. So my friends book it for me down the highway, and I run up the stairs. And by the time we get to the apartment, the wind has picked up dramatically. So I run up the stairs. We're on the second floor. And granted, in an apartment, you really have nowhere to go. And my friend said, just go get your stuff, get Katie, and let's go to our house and we can hunker down. And their house was 15 minutes on the other side of town. So we were really risking it, but I had to get my dog. So I run up the stairs. It's really windy. I grab my dog under my arm, and the only other two things I felt I really needed were my toothbrush and my phone charger. I wanted to make sure I had communication. I wanted to make sure that I could brush my teeth. And I obviously, first and foremost, wanted to grab my loved one. At the time, it was just Jeff, me, and the dog. And when Jeff was gone, it was just me and the dog. So those were my essentials. That was all I felt in the moment when you have that 5-second train of thought. What do you need? Get it. That's that. So I grab the dog. So I have Katie under my arm, and I have the toothbrush and my phone charger in my other hand, and I'm running down the stairs, and all of a sudden I see this flash of lightning, and I look to my left. So if you can imagine, I came down the stairs. The car is in the parking lot to the right, and there's a big open field and trees, and by field, it's a golf course, right? So all that's in front of me and to my left. And I see this huge flash of lightning, saw a tornado spinning feet from me. And it did not feel real. All I thought was, I got to run. So I got the dog in my arm. I'm not that far from the car. I've got the charger and the toothbrush. And you would not have seen this tornado if it wasn't for the lightning. It was so dark. And it appeared like it was coming my way. So all of this is happening in a lightning flash moment, right? So I'm rushing down the stairs. I see this thing. It starts coming my way, and I book it. And I'm holding the dog, and I am running to the car. And I don't think my friends saw it because, like I said, unless you saw it, you caught it right in the lightning. You might not have seen it coming. Holy smokes. So I jump in the car, and I'm like, go, 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 go. I felt like I was in the movie Twister. And right as we turned and booked it out of there, I looked in the back, saw another flash of lightning, looked out of the back of the car, and the tornado had taken a turn and started disappearing a little bit. I couldn't even believe I had just witnessed and literally ran from a tornado. My kids love this story. I probably shouldn't have told them, but they think it's amazing. I don't actually think they believe it, but it is very true. It is very true. I ran from a tornado. It was just a split second, and it didn't hurt me, obviously. But the reason this story packs such a punch is, one, I can say I'm a tornado survivor, but two is when you have a split second to think about what you need, sometimes it's just that it can be that clear and that obvious. And granted, I was in kind of an emergency moment. I get that. But the concept is still true. Whether you're in an emergency moment or not, you can come up with what you need and how to get that need fulfilled within seconds. You can, if you let yourself keep it that simple. Another simple story that I can tell, and it's more of an example than a story, is when our family travels to Phoenix, Arizona, where Major League Baseball spring training is, which is where my husband, while I'm recording this, my husband's there. back before the kids were more school age, we would go for the full 5, 6 weeks. And we would basically live in Phoenix while Jeff was working and, make sure we stayed together as a family. And I realized every time we went, especially as the kids got older and their needs, like the piles of things that they always need as kids, got smaller and simpler. I get that. But what I recognized in the pattern of taking these trips is that helped my brain and my body, my mind, everything felt calmer and more simple, because how we live away from our normal life in Phoenix is we have food in the fridge that we need. We have a few toys and activities that the kids can play with, and our, hygiene essentials, and that's it. And we just kept it simple. Here's what we need. That's all we need. And that was enough, to a point where it was so cleansing. It was so peaceful that when I would come home back to our life where we have, our regular stuff, all the things we don't need too, it would overwhelm me almost. It was like coming back, talk about a transition. It was coming back from this simple place to this complicated or cluttered place. And there's proven facts about living a more simple life, having just enough of what you need, actually communicating with your brain and keeping your stress low and keeping your mind calm, and it just makes life easier. And so when I come back, I think, gosh, I call it my spring training mind. I want to take my spring training mind with me. And so, of course, I get into this frenzy of I've got to purge. Like, I've got to get rid of stuff. I've got to simplify my space. And in reality, because life is life, it's not always easy to simplify and declutter and purge things and only have what you need, like the essentials, right? It would be amazing to just snap my fingers and live a spring training lifestyle here in our normal world in Wisconsin. Doesn't that sound refreshing? Just think about it. Like, just you unpack your suitcase and you put stuff away in a drawer in a closet. You put stuff out on the counter in the bathroom. There's just enough food in the pantry and the fridge, and it just feels so easy and so simple. Even though it's hard to get to that place, it's possible. And if it's something you need, just to have the essentials, to uncomplicate the tasks of tending to your needs, having what you need in your life, maybe this simplification of lifestyle is for you. Maybe the purge and org is your thing. Maybe it's just a mind simplification, right? When we overthink and we take a long time to make a decision or choose how to steer ourselves when there's a need that we need to tend to, if it's just doing the quick and easy steering to get us to that place, that's a mental game, right? We can all try that. I'll give you another example. I have a client who is what you would call your typical people pleaser, someone who likes to be the go-to, says yes when someone needs something, has a favor that they need fulfilled, right? They're the yes person. People pleasers tend to do that. I get it. I've been a people pleaser. We all have that tendency. Some are just, stronger tendencies than others. So she has this tendency to say yes to everyone else, which is, harder to say yes to herself. There was this one circumstance where she was getting ready for a trip and she really, really needed new sneakers, right? The ones she had were kind of blown out. They weren't comfortable anymore, like really actually needed these new sneakers. And there was a friend of hers who had asked her to do something, come hang out, or it was a favor. I can't remember exactly what. And in that moment, after talking several times in sessions, she finally got to a point where it was just simpler and easier to say, hey, I'd love to do that with you. I really need to go get these sneakers, so I'll have to take a rain check. And that sometimes is one of the hardest things to do, to say no to someone else, to say yes to yourself. But it really can be that simple. It really can be that easy. Back in episode number 2, I talk about what it's like to deny yourself of your needs. And this is a great example. If she were to deny herself this need, she would run out of time to get them. The need might not get fulfilled. She'd, end up in a position where, gosh, I really needed those sneakers and I didn't make the time to go get them because I made a decision that was pulling me away from that need. Tending to your needs doesn't have to be so hard. It can be more attainable if you let it. Let's look at this on a large scale. You've been thinking for a long time about a career change or a job change, and it's just sitting on your heart, in your mind, and it won't go away. Now, making a larger life decision, while it sounds overwhelming, while it is a big deal, you can make the process of choosing what you need simple. Do I love this job? No. Do I want something more? Yes. Can I quit this job? Yes. Can I make a plan? Yes. What's the plan look like? And you know what? I bet you already know the plan. I mean, truly, it's amazing how much information is already sitting in your head if you just tap into it and allow yourself to go there. It doesn't have to be that complicated. On the easier side, picking a restaurant. How many people have that conversation? Where do you want to go? Well, I don't know. Where do you want to go? Well, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? Okay, you decide. No, you decide. I mean, come on. We've all been there. It could be just that simple of saying, just being that person that says, well, I feel like Italian. I want Italian. You pick the restaurant and compromise, whatever. It just doesn't have to be complicated. I told you my tornado story because sometimes your mind has to be challenged in order to find clarity, in order to pick the essentials that you need. I told you the spring training example when we basically live away from home, so you can imagine what it's like to have the essentials and have that be enough, and taking that declutter your space into your regular lifestyle so you can declutter your mind, and making decisions more simply, more quickly. And honestly, that comes down to trusting yourself. If you truly want to simplify how you tend to your needs, learn how to trust yourself. Learn how to listen to your internal guide. It is stronger than you think, and it is clearer than you think. And when you steer yourself authentically, you're going to feel peace. You're going to feel alignment. You're going to feel balanced. When you really tune in, things can get easier and more simple. So tending to your most complicated needs versus tending to the most simple and basic needs or decisions you need to make can be simple. If you're complicating things for yourself and it's hard to tend to your needs, if it's hard to listen to your intuition and trust yourself, if you're having self-doubt around making choices about your needs, whether, like I said, whether it's large decisions or smaller ones, these are things we can talk about together. Reach out if coaching is something you're curious about, having to make decisions. This is what I do. So if this episode feels like it's really resonating with you and you think, gosh, I would love for things to be easier, more simple. I would love to make a decision quicker. I would love to make that big life decision finally. If these are the things you're saying to yourself, especially listening to this episode, reach out. ablifecoaching.com. You can email me directly at coachlevering@gmail.com. If you want to get to know me, the serious side and the goofy side more, go to ABL Life Coaching on Instagram. I'm here for you. I know it's hard to make things easy and simple and keep life moving forward. Being a human is hard, but at the end of the day, your needs matter because you matter. So thanks for being here. Thanks for showing up for yourself, too. That's really huge and good for you, truly. Have a great day. You can keep things simple. It probably will feel amazing. Take care. Thank you for listening to Needy and Normal. Please take a moment to leave me a review. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. For information about coaching, visit ablifecoaching.com.